Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is the 2013 Christmas special, The Time of the Doctor. A message ringing out to all corners of creation, and all the great civilizations in the universe are afraid. It is a question, the most important question in all of time and space. Will Clara cook her Christmas turkey in time? This episode is written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Jamie Payne. It originally aired on the 25th of December 2013, and it was watched by 8.3 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Attention, information available. This is Auburn.
Hi, this is Josh.
Hello, this is Frank.
And Kelsey.
This is Brian.
A tiny planet has begun broadcasting a message to everyone, everywhere. No one knows what it says, but they are all afraid. Everyone sends ships to watch the planet and wait for the Doctor to do something about it. He's investigating each ship as they enter orbit, and he's not having much luck. In the middle of a battle with the Cybermen, he receives a call from Clara. She needs a boyfriend. It's Christmas, and she needs him to pretend to be her boyfriend to please her family. She also needs her turkey cooked. After putting the turkey in the time vortex, the Doctor says he needs to go to church and sends them back to the planet. I guess we don't have much to say about this.
I want to know when he transmats onto the Dalek ship, what's with the cloak? Why does he need the big Dumbledore cloak? I mean, it looks good, but as with a lot of things with this episode, it looks good, but then when you start thinking about it, it's like, why?
Yeah, it's style over substance because he's carrying the Dalek eye stalk. I'm like, do you do that for the Centauran ship? Do you do that for the Cyberman ship? But he didn't do it for the Cyberman ship. But you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think it's definitely like meant for Christmas morning, right? When you're waiting for everything to happen and the Doctor Who Christmas special comes on and it's everybody, it's all of the villains, they're all there right away. So yeah, I think it's a lot of that kind of energy, unless this was meant to make sense energy.
No, I think it's more fun.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Again, with Moffat's run, it's style over substance. It's like you shouldn't be doing a podcast about these episodes.
I thought.
Yeah, I still, even looking back right now, I can't even quite recall what the beginning of it is. I remember what happens, but I don't even remember why it was happening.
The whole opening seemed very odd to me. The whole opening seemed odd. I didn't think it was the tone for the final episode that we knew that this Doctor was leaving, you know. But the parents didn't seem like Clara's parents at all, from what we learned about the Leaf.
Yeah.
And then the whole family just seemed, this isn't right. Even if they were living because of some time change or crack in the wall or rebooting because of the TARDIS blowing up, any of that.
It's that thing. It's like, wait, Amy is now a model.
Right.
Amy and Rory are getting divorced. It's that thing that Moffat does where he just alters things on a whim without explaining it, and that was one of the annoying things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the episodes like this, you always feel like you're either listening to one side of a telephone conversation or you just came into a conversation after they started talking about whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the dad is still alive, is that right? But the mom has passed away?
I thought they both
Clara?
passed away.
Yeah,
but...
Claire's dead? I thought
Clara's
was still
dad
alive.
is dead. No,
Never
sorry.
mind.
Her
Clara's mom is dead.
Yes.
Because that was that date in the journal.
Yes.
Yes.
She was
So
Dad's
then what
alive,
was
and her
what was
grandmother's
that the beginning of this supposed to be? Was that her stepmom or
No,
Yes.
Well, something like that, because that's Linda, not Clara's mom, and that is the grandmother of Clara from, I guess, the dad's mom. That's what I'm thinking.
how are we supposed to know that?
We don't,
We don't.
but that's what I'm thinking.
Well, they could have even just said dad and what's her name?
Linda.
Dad, Linda. it's running late or something. So that
But I do think she's.
could be
I
a
mean,
second.
it's
third,
definitely clear that that's her father.
They're
And
with
then-
them? No, I
Yeah.
thought that was the brother. Didn't
He-
No.
they went to visit the graves with the brother at the very beginning, didn't they?
That's the
Or
dad.
that was the
No, that's
dad.
the
I
father.
thought it was.
Yes.
I thought it was the
Yes.
brother. But yes,
Right.
you're right. That is the dad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's weird.
He's credited as dad. So that's why I was like, what? Okay, fine.
Mm.
But also just the whole idea of having to be naked to go to church. And that whole thing was, I could just see the kids laughing at it, the whole idea of it, but it just seems so bizarre to start it this way.
But it's forced for the comedy of, oh, should I put everybody's ocular senses that they see I'm clothed as well? This is not coupling, Stephen Moffat. Don't write stuff like that.
Yeah, and I don't even think it was coupling was actually funny.
Yeah.
You know, this was
Coupling's
just
very good. I like that. I
Mhm.
gotta go watch
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's been a long time.
This was Uncle Bob humor.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be funny if he was naked. Can we make him naked?
Are we going to play Twister now?
It was, I don't know. I also felt his jovialness as it was almost like a caricature of Matt Smith being the Doctor. Something just seemed off. It did not seem, he didn't seem like his normal goofiness. It was like he was making fun of himself.
Yeah, I agree.
Because when the Doctor does things like that, it's usually for a reason. He's throwing off the enemy or something. But this is, how did you not know you're going to be naked to all the people and you would not do that? You would have put the
it's just,
clothing
I
on.
don't know.
He's been busy.
It just didn't seem right. I mean, if he came in that way, even with Clara, so all of them saw him, it could have been funny. But to do it ahead of time, setting it up, for Clara, and then having to do it again, it's just, okay, you're playing off for a joke. You're somehow stretching the script that you don't need to do.
Stretching it in the wrong place.
He pitched it in the writer's room and they were like, yeah, we can't tell the
Sure,
boss
Steven, whatever
no.
you say, Steven.
Yeah, we can't tell the boss no.
It kind of feels like they're trying to do like a greatest hits of Matt Smith, like all of his best like one-liners and the different villains and everything. Like they're but without really tying it well together. Like they're just trying to make it all be in there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Yeah,
Because you can compare this to the last one of David Tennant's, when he gets all the companions together, but this one is all of the enemies together.
Yeah.
And that's what I think Moffat has done, even with the whole Pandorica Opens, had all of the enemies together.
Yeah. It feels like Alburn said, it's the greatest hits, but it's stuff we already know and we're fine with. We don't need to go back.
It was like it's not a greatest hits. It's a medley of the greatest hits.
Yeah.
So you don't get a piece of any of the whole song. You're only getting pieces of the song.
But it's not the repetitive part that you know. It's other parts, because it's like, what are they referring to? Wait a minute, what song was that?
It's like, why are we listening to the bridge?
Yeah, I think that the most common, the most repetitive thought I had watching this episode was, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then it was
also,
like,
for me, that was 4 years ago, or was it 3 years ago? What is he referencing? Because they don't set it up for you, and it's like, I'm supposed to remember this.
yeah, it was.
I thought this was already handled. I thought that was done.
It's like they edited the script because for time, but didn't write anything to compensate for what they took out.
Exactly. I agree with you. That's good.
I did like the message gave me some like Star Wars 4 or Star Wars. Oh my god, no, I'm sorry. Gave me some Star Trek 4 Voyage Home vibes.
Yeah.
Like I was waiting for the humpback whales to be saved to communicate.
That I will say that was a promising start, and then it went off the rails.
Well, it's like, you introduce any mystery, it's interesting, and the setting's interesting, and you're like, why are all the enemies here? And even him being naked and all that, like, it's like, what's going on? But it just wasn't gelling.
And it didn't seem like Clara.
No,
it
didn't.
Change of Clara.
It seemed like here, Gemma, here's the script. We rewrote everything. We were filming in 5 minutes.
but it was the whole idea of, well, stop saving the world and stop fighting the Cybermen and come help me and pretend to be a boyfriend. That's not Clara. She thinks the bigger picture. She's smarter.
No.
Yeah.
She literally said, "Can't you do both?" And the doctor's like, "Oh yeah, sure."
On the second phone call.
Yeah, and a domestic problem like that was never Clara's character's MO. Like that just where'd that even come from? I mean, obviously where it's going is where it's going, but up to this point, it was just like that wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
But for all the British families who have the turkey in the oven, like as they're watching this, I think that's, we're forgetting that this is an experience for a very specific time and place.
And if you're having people over for Christmas the first time, you are freaked. I understand that completely. Having family over for that and trying to get the turkey done.
But also,
she's been such a caregiver. But she's been a caregiver and all this stuff. It's like, it just didn't seem Clara. But I do understand trying to cook your first one and having the family over.
Oh, and look at her family. They're not really appreciative.
Yeah, that's not the family, Clara.
That's not Clara's family.
I almost wish like they had the dad in quotes speak at some point, and it would have been so much better if they just had him like silent. He was doing so good with like his looks and everything.
Yeah, his acting.
Especially when the doctor comes in unclothed, like watching it again, you're like, okay, that guy knows what the assignment was.
Yeah, he's good at that, doing that.
Yeah.
I said that I've, in my own timeline fandom, that Clara changed when she went through the Doctor's time stream. And this is the practical one where Clara changes. This is the practical episode that Clara has changed so much and they rewrote her. From here on, it's like, this is a different Clara. This is the one that a lot of people don't like, including myself. She's not horrible at this point, but you see the changes. You see the changes of her being smart, witty, with it, on top of things, being the main companion, to being just a different character.
Yeah.
There was a great line, which I laughed at and still think was one of the best lines they've written for that beginning part, was when she's looking at the turkey and the doctor says, a decent vet would give it an even chance.
Yeah.
That one got me going. Yeah. That was a good one.
There's a lot of good one-liners. Like there's a lot of parts that are well written that like are funny, like haha. Like I think when she's on the phone and talking about, this might be later, but talking about the boyfriend thing, and she made up a boyfriend and he says something like androids are hard to get rid of. Like, yeah, like that conversation is fun, but yes. Outside of our normal good story, it's forgettable.
And like his bald head, like was that fake, or was he doing that for a part and then his hair was a wig?
Oh, that was a bald cap.
He was doing it for a part.
He had shaved his head for a part in a movie, and then they were hoping it would grow back, so it hadn't grown back to the length that they needed it, so they put a bald cap on him. So it's both.
Really interesting.
And he's not the only one, but we'll get there.
How to Catch a Monster.
How?
Ryan Gosling directorial debut. How to Catch a Monster. That was the movie. Sorry. I could have said that a lot better than I did.
Oh, you're.
Well, obviously nobody else did.
It's called Lost River. How to Catch a Monster was the original title, or one of like the international title, whatever.
Okay. Ironically, not the only one to do so. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Tell you at the
Frank, did you know I just said that 2 minutes ago?
I'm sorry.
I'm just sometimes
looking up Matt Smith's
the one persona doesn't listen to the other side. The left side doesn't know what the right side's doing.
Okay, could you repeat that? You broke up.
His Cybermen head assistant Handles informs them that the name of the planet has been identified. It's Gallifrey. The Doctor reacts angrily to this because the planet below is not his home. They are summoned to the ship of the papal mainframe and are met with Tasha Lem, the leader of the church. This planet has a small farming colony and nothing else. She transports them to the surface to investigate. The Doctor summons the TARDIS in a very Doctor way, and they home in on the mysterious message. It's in a tower in a town called Christmas. It's surrounded by a truth field. No one can lie inside this field. And after spouting a few truths, they enter the tower where the Doctor finds the crack in the wall. Someone is trying to break through it. He asks Handles why Handles said Gallifrey. Handles replies that the message is of Gallifreyan origin. It's the Time Lords trying to return to this universe.
Where did we get Handles? It's told in, I think, a story or a comic book. So this is
here he says he picked it up in a market.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's just a throwaway line. I would have liked a short or just something else with this, but there's nothing about that. Where we were complaining earlier about like Clara's jobs or Amy's jobs just changing at the whim of Moffat's hand and pen. This one felt very much the same way. I'm like, should I know who this is? Am I supposed to know where Handles came from?
yes, it was a bit jarring, but it was also another example of the Doctor's lonely. You know?
Again, yeah, but
Is that the boyfriend android that he's no?
but again, I don't get the loneliness. Just like with the snowman when he's in his isolation in Victorian London, I get that from the shorts. So that's why I was wanting a short
Right.
with handles to convey that for me.
It did feel, volleyball reminiscent,
Yes.
but I did feel like, did I miss something? Am I watching the right? Did I miss the last episode?
Yeah.
But who doesn't love Handles?
Oh, he's great.
Right. No, it was great.
I just wish the introduction of handles was handled differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
I was worried that the technology would be a danger. He did explain it later on with some, techno babble, which kind of explained it. But like up until he said that, I was like, because I didn't recall everything about this episode. I was worried that is the Cybermen technology going to take over the TARDIS? Is that safe? No.
He did mention, all the organic components were gone, so maybe he was.
Until he said that, I was worried though.
I didn't put much in, or anything really, in the summary about the initial meeting between him and Tasha, because it just seemed to be kind of exposition and, what is it? We don't know. It's on the planet. There's nothing there. Oh, okay. Go to the planet. Okay. But there was one thing that I really liked is that Tasha offers him a glass of wine.
Yes.
He takes a sip of the wine and spits it back out.
Yeah.
And it was just like, not even in close up. I mean, I think it was a medium shot. And it's just like, oh, now Moffat, why can't you do that all the time? It's that fun little callback.
That was a callback to The Lodger when the Doctor drinks some wine and he like evacuates it immediately out of his mouth.
And isn't there also something with Eccleston? Doesn't Eccleston have I take a drink of something and I'm like, ugh.
It's the Ninth Doctor in World War III, I think, when they're in the cabinet,
Yes.
the room.
When they're in the
Yes.
when they're in the yeah. So it's a long callback.
And is this where she tells him that the name of the planet is Trenzalore?
Yes.
Yeah, so like that felt like a big bomb, info bomb to be dropped right there, and then I had to track my mind as to what even that meant, and then I remembered. And then they don't even so I guess they changed the timeline, so that didn't happen. Like I started to kind of like brain freeze on that episode, because that Trenzalore is where the episode where the TARDIS exploded, right?
The name of the Doctor, where the tomb is.
Right, where the big tomb is, where they thought it was a monument to the TARDIS, and it ended up being the TARDIS.
Yeah, it was just the TARDIS was old, right? Yeah, because it was his headstone.
Did that now not happen?
It's happened, but just not yet. They're in a different time frame. They're back like when George Washington time. So the nuclear things haven't happened. So they went back. They're in the time frame of Trenzalore before that.
Because the Doctor says to Trenzalore, "We've been here before, but we haven't." But that was a lot earlier than now.
Okay, right. But he's there for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're there hundreds and thousands of years before that episode.
The name of the Doctor.
Okay.
Yes. So put a pin in that. We'll come back when it comes in the summary.
And you're just supposed to remember that instantaneously in the middle of them.
Right.
Everything that's going on, yeah.
I mean, it does kind of suck because, the whole Trenzalore thing and all the battle, that does happen only 2 episodes before. I mean, this is kind of like a trilogy, but it was all so spaced out. It wasn't like it was 1 week, second week, third week. It was months of airing apart. So it is kind of like, wait, you're just throwing us back in and I don't remember what this is. So.
And I think the 50th gave us a really good emotional and series climax. So now it's like, wait a minute. Like, I think we all felt like we're done with that whole story. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, no, you want to keep telling us about this. Okay. Yeah.
Well, they picked up that awkward bit at the end with Tennant where it was like, you may as well tell me where you're going. And it's like, we're going to Trenzalore. It's like, Tennant doesn't know what Trenzalore is. Why is he reacting badly?
Because he doesn't want to go.
We're also at this point introduced to Tasha Lem, and I had no idea who this actress was, but immediately this actress was like the best thing in the whole episode for me. It was like, more scenes with her, please. I just loved her performance in this. I thought she was perfect. Foil for the Doctor, and at the same time just having this, I can lead a militant church, but instead, and then also have that side of rocking the new body. So.
Very, very tight.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it.
Are you aware of this of who the actress is now?
Yes, and we'll tell you later.
Yeah.
We keep saying that.
It's too bad that she had such a short run. She's a good character. And again, I liked I think when I say like best of, like her and Matt Smith and then Clara as they're going to the bedroom altar, like that whole conversation is like Matt Smith at some of his best. Like starting off with, oh, you can tell anything in front of Clara, like where I share everything with her, and then like he plays it out on his face and in his voice, like understanding what that means and slowly like backing away from that till he's finally, complete opposite. Like that's
you can wait outside.
Yeah. Like that's what I mean by like greatest hits, like really trying to just give Matt Smith and like all the things he wants to do. Who cares if a story makes sense? Like let's just highlight him as much as we can.
I think that was the whole point of this episode, was giving him just a playground to be at his best, sacrifice story, things like that, so he can go out on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I missed was how Gallifrey got into this, why Handel thought Gallifrey. And it was because he did it by analyzing the message and saying the planet is Gallifrey. So it's like, I was like, why is he saying it's Gallifrey? I missed that first part about analyzing the message. Somehow that just went right over my head the first time or two I watched
I'm probably going to talk about this more later, but for me, even though this isn't an episode that you should really be doing a podcast on, it is an episode that you should watch more than once, because you pick up on more things where it's like, why? Because it's like the first time you're watching, exactly, Frank, it's like, well, why did you say Gallifrey? And it's like, oh, because the only thing on this planet is a signal that's of Gallifreyan origin. So this robot brain, which really isn't up par, would interpret that himself to mean that it is Gallifrey. Well, and it's like, okay, you didn't explain any of that, but I don't know how you would have, but okay, all right, that's fine.
Also for explanations, or maybe just my like conservation of story sense, the truth field, like, is it just so that the Doctor will tell the truth about who the Doctor is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't come back later either, does it? Like,
No.
After that point, like people there aren't telling the truth. Embarrassingly.
No, they're
They're
always
still telling the truth.
Always.
But it doesn't
But they
matter
just-
for the story.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. It
Okay.
doesn't matter for anybody. It's like we set that up just to get exposition out.
Yeah.
Well, they set
One
it
other
up
time it
just
does,
because
which
they just are going to eliminate the possibility of the number one rule of the Doctor lies. So Moffat had to get that out of the way, so he put this truth field up along with so the Time Lords send a truth field going, we need to know that it is actually the Doctor, because the Time Lords know his name.
Well, what gets me is if this signal has been transferred all the way through time and space, and it's the oldest question type of thing. Oh, we're going ahead of it, but why wasn't the truth field with it?
Oh, before?
If they're sending the truth field and this message, and they're kind of piggybacking, sending both of these, why aren't they together? Why
Because
isn't the truth field?
The truth field doesn't have that range. The truth field is only around the tower where they need it, so that because the Doctor has to be at the crack in the wall to answer the question for them to know.
My answer to that, Frank, is don't be on a podcast.
It totally is. Yeah, but it totally is. But
it's because, all these things I've thought of, I'm like, that's why I don't want to overanalyze things sometimes.
A big issue with this one is it's like you're taking stuff that you have established from the first time Matt showed up as Doctor all the way on, solving it a couple of times along the way, and then going, oh, let's bring that up again. And we didn't really solve it. This is the real reason. It's like you've already done that twice.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to downer on it.
and we had talked about this later, or oh my god, we talked about this earlier, relatively speaking. We also see the hotel room and his greatest fear, and we find out that his greatest fear is the crack in the wall.
Yeah, it's a quick flashback.
Flashback to what was it? Night Terror?
God Complex.
God Complex. The
My
Minotaur.
memory's awesome.
What?
My memory's awesome today.
Yeah,
for some reason.
But yeah, so I remember when we were reviewing that episode, somebody had said, do we ever find out what his fear is? And it's like, this is where it is.
Yeah.
And it's just in the montage.
So it's like somebody forgot to clip that off, or Moffat was really bummed that he wasn't able to like tie up that loose end. And it's like, okay, there it is. Good. Check.
It wasn't that important. And they could have just left it. They could have just, it's like in an episode where you're confronted with your greatest fears, you can't show the Doctors. Really? So, if we had never gotten a resolution to that, we would have been fine.
I liked seeing the silence again.
The who?
Since they're bringing back, exactly. But since they're bringing it back, I thought dealing with Clara, who had no idea who they were, but I guess never saw the moon landing.
Well, how many has she killed in her life? Because, all humans are now murderers.
I shouldn't have said that. Keep going, Frank.
No, but I kind of like that aspect of bringing them back. Again, you can't analyze it too much because it contradicts a lot of other things. But having, made me think of going back to when River did not kill the Doctor and that whole alternate timeline, because the silence came back then and they had to wear the patch over their eye to remember, so they've always been around. So I liked that they're continuing a little bit here just to have her see it. I just like
and to explain them as being connected to the church, which allows them to explain that the Kavarian people were an offshoot of this church. So it's kind of like they're trying to tie everything together. But I really did like that the Silents are confessors. You go and confess to them, and then you don't remember afterwards. It's like, well, that's the greatest confession ever.
See, I don't get it, because then wouldn't you still feel as guilty? Wouldn't you feel bad? So it's like, you don't confess anything. Nothing.
Yeah, but you see, but you still feel guilty after confession. You're just bored with saying 6 Hail Marys. So this is, you say the confession and you forget about the punishment. Yes, you feel guilty, but you're still going to feel guilty anyway because you're a human being. I never know anyone who walked out of confession going, I feel so much better.
No, there is an atonement to it. Anyway, that's going on a whole different thing. But how are they supposed to get back to the papal mainframe? She goes, I want you back in 1 hour. Well, you have the controls. How do we do that? Do we already have to go back to the same spot we're in? Can you just beam us up? What?
I took it as contact me in 1 hour so I can beam you back up.
But that's not what she said. I want you back. Like, you have to return.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
It's all about control. Like, we're supposed to think, oh, Tosh is in control, the Doctor isn't. But then that quick turnaround with the wig and the key,
right?
Like, he regains control so quickly. It's like the lie, like the lie field or the anti-lying field, the truth field. Like, you didn't really need it for the story. You could have had some other way of explaining it.
Yeah, totally. And we have to be reminded that she's a school teacher. Right? Isn't that what she says?
Yeah.
Like, okay, thank you. It just, again, it feels like you're supposed to show, don't tell, where this is all tell us and then tell us again.
Right.
Handels translates the message. One question repeated over and over. Doctor Who? A question that only he can answer. And he's in a truth field, so he cannot lie. If he replies with his real name, the Time Lords will come through, and all hell will break loose. He tricks Clara into the TARDIS and sends her home. She tries to get back as the TARDIS automatically starts to return to the Doctor. Back on the planet, everyone has heard the translation, and Tasha contacts the Doctor. Before anything else, the Doctor asks her, what is the actual name of this planet? She replies, Trenzalore. She then tells him that she will prevent the Time Lords from returning at any cost. If he speaks his name, she'll destroy the planet. She informs the papal mainframe that the siege of Trenzalore has begun. The church has a new direction to prevent the Doctor from saying his name. Silence will fall.
Again?
Oh, remember that thing from way back when?
Oh, I loved this.
I was looking at my notes, and I mean, we didn't even talk about the angels. That's how like bad this is. Like one of our most scariest Doctor Who villains, and it's not even worth.
It's not worth it because it's just a couple hands and a couple of like the bust portion of the angel.
Yeah.
And then okay, done. Bye.
And they get away.
The Dan Starkey cameo.
Yeah, the two Centaurans are played by Dan Starkey.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
I mean, the line is,
about
the church, the papal mainframe regrets your death.
And your afterlives have been notified.
Yes. But I mean, I liked this. I thought this was a really good part. I love Tasha just reorganizing the church on a leadership whim. That is like, and the language that she used to do it. I just thought it was great. It was very good. And I intentionally said in the review, all hell will break loose. I normally wouldn't put something like that into a summary, but the Doctor says that himself. Well, what would happen if the Time Lords come back? Hell. And it's like, that's really, really telling you what the stakes are. So
I agree with you completely, Brian. I like the storyline of that. It was just the silence will fall line I didn't like, but this does have a continuation even through Tenets when they're trying to come back through. So I liked that continuation. That's the main storyline. That was good. I'm totally on board with you on that.
I totally agree with the silence will fall part, where it is like, really? But but all what was it like? All churches and choir locations and Like she's just reorganizing the entire. It was an emergency faith directive. It's like, that's so awesome. I just think that's the greatest thing, where it's like, you got this big gigantic church, and then it's like, okay, now this is what we're gonna do. Okay, loved it.
But this is my problem all the way back in Time of Angels, is that you are telling us as we go along what the church has become and how the church operates. Like bishops are now a rank, as in like colonel. Well, there are colonels here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and then so it's like I want to know more about this so that I can enjoy something like that. Like, this is how the church operates, and this is the directives of this church. Or is the church a military organization that just change army with church? There are certain things about what the papal mainframe is that I wish we had been delved deeper into as the series went along.
Right.
See, and I guess I just always put on an assumption that the church is a militaristic organization, that religion has become militant.
And I like that. I like that idea.
You know, and I love it. I think it's fantastic.
And maybe I am putting like the metaphor of Stephen Moffat's run of Doctor Who on that. It's like we're just supposed to follow as we go along. There's no like real setup for it. And
yes,
so
I agree. You're just supposed to
yeah.
follow along.
And I think that's why it personified within a metaphor, like the story is the metaphor, and then there's a metaphor within that story.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm not liking it now that I'm talking it out with you. Yeah.
You know.
And I guess to quote Josh, you guys win.
Yeah. All right. To interject for a moment, why were all the enemies surrounding that place again in the very beginning? Why did they even show up?
Because of the
Because
message.
They were terrified, and they wanted to be there.
Terrified of what?
Message. The message.
But nobody knew what the message was.
The message had something in it that intentionally instilled fear into anyone who heard it. And the only one who didn't get that fear was the Doctor. And that's in Tasha's opening narration.
So they're all afraid of this message, so they go to it?
Yes.
And just like the direction of the church, we're supposed to just believe that.
Yeah,
Right.
but wait a minute though. I mean, if we got readings that, you know, someplace called Chernobyl, something bad happened there, you know, people went to figure out what the hell is going on. That's what people do.
Right. Okay.
But
And
they
then when they
knew.
got there,
Yeah.
they got there, they found a planet that was shielded. They didn't
Right. Yeah.
know
Find
what was
out
on
it's
the
like a
planet.
distress call or whatever.
Yeah.
I
I also love it because it was everybody's waiting for someone else to go first, and
Right, I just
everybody
missed-
looks and goes, "The Doctor's flying around. Let him go first."
Okay.
And see, this goes back to my point where we're told that in exposition. We're not shown the Santarans receiving the message and then going, "Oh, we have to find out
Yeah.
what this is."
Mm-hmm.
That's my main problem with this episode is I'm not really. I was never really sure why any of it was happening until 2 or 3 scenes later, where I was like, "Oh, is that why?"
The answer is Moffat wants it to happen, so we
Well,
accept
yeah,
it.
yeah. I just
The answer is it's Christmas.
Yes, yes.
go on. All right, go. I literally couldn't even remember why everyone was there in the first place. So
Well, some of us just listened to the Eighth Doctor Time War audio drama from Big Finish Audio, and I think after listening to that and then hearing the Doctor and Tasha explain like that they can't have the Time Lords come back gives that more weight, because the Time War does sound pretty awful in those extended dramas.
Yeah.
But yeah, to have the whole universe be on the side of the Daleks sort of in this, you know, I guess doesn't really mean anything because that's not the point, but it adds a little bit of weight.
It does kind of seem that way, but again, don't think about it too much. But on repeated viewings, all those people then start fighting each other. And in the end, the only two that are left are the Papal Mainframe and the Daleks. And the Papal Mainframe side with the Doctor at that point. "300 years pass, and there are many attempts to get at the Doctor and his secret. Every time, the Doctor protects the planet. One Christmas night, the TARDIS reappears, with Clara hanging on the outside. They laugh, cry, and yell at each other. As the Doctor brings Clara up to speed, Handels unexpectedly dies from old age. Clara believes that the Doctor will never die. He'll regenerate. He tells her that this is his last regeneration. He doesn't have another one left in him. Tasha summons him to her ship. After getting reacquainted, she tells him that the Daleks are massing for war. 3 days ago, they attacked the mainframe itself, and Tasha then remembers that she died. She's now a Dalek puppet. He plays on her ego to make her angry. Using that emotion, Tasha is able to regain some control, and she sends them back to the TARDIS. Tasha knows that he will fly away and not return to the planet.
Again, this is what I don't like about this episode is that, oh, now they're Dalek puppets. But could you show us them getting like something of where the papal mainframe was infiltrated? There's just a lot of turning on a dime with plot on this.
Well, this is the callback to
Asylum of the Daleks.
Yeah, when we first met Clara.
Do we need this? I mean, I get we need it for what Moffat is doing, but it's just it comes out of left field.
What says Christmas better than I died in this room screaming your name? Merry Christmas!
On this one, I disagree with you. I think the switch was really good.
I do too.
Oh, you guys win.
It's not winning or losing. I mean, because
I'm quoting Josh. I'm quoting Josh is what I'm doing.
But with the stalk coming out of the eye, that goes back to Asylum, so you know, oh, they lost, even right before she says it.
I mean, I even had a problem with that all the way back when, because they're so good of a copy that they don't remember until it's the exact moment that they need to be not the copy.
Right.
I think once you understand, or we understand, that this episode is solely a Matt Smith rogue gallery, and basically it's like every rogue has 5 minutes, and it's just all right, you're next. Now it's your 5 minutes. You're next. Now it's your. It's like a telethon. It's like a Jerry Lewis telethon. Who's next?
It's more like it's more like get in the lineup. Turn front, turn left, turn right. Okay, move on.
Yeah. It's basically that's the agenda. And now that I can see that, I see why this is all like that. But it's almost like I could see why they would want to do that for a finale. But it just leaves you. I don't know. I don't think it worked. But you did mention that the Doctor looks so much older now.
And she didn't. Tasha Len. So it's like, how is she not aging? When they first came back to her, it's like, okay, what's going on? Time has changed. Time has moved on.
And he has a throwaway line about that.
Oh, man, then I missed that.
Yeah. Oh, she's just against aging.
Well, it's funny because we always say that like the Doctor is the smartest one in the room, but it feels like they're sacrificing that character trait for the Rogues Gallery aspect of this in this story. So yeah, I would have preferred that if the Doctor was talking to Tasha as he's older, 300 years older, and going, you are not aging. Why? Oh, you are not who you think you are. Like, I would have preferred it that the Doctor figured it out instead of the stalk coming out of the forehead.
Yeah. Well,
but the Doctor already knows she doesn't age as fast as humans because she says nice body and he says I've been rocking it for centuries. So he's familiar with her and how old she can get and look.
I'm just trying to think of a way that would have satisfied the same outcome but written differently, and that's just anyway, there's other things I can think of, but I don't have time.
I was surprised to see Clara outside the TARDIS. That scared me.
Yes.
As to what they're going to do with Clara, because it just brought back Captain Jack, who died again because of it.
At Utopia.
Yeah, and then like she shows up there, and she's like, I was in outer space, and I thought that was gonna like, oh no, what's that gonna mean?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They just like warm her up. Yeah, like.
Oh well, I didn't. Okay. Again, there's a line from the Doctor where he says the TARDIS extended its shields back to you.
Yeah, I got it, but
I saw that as the payoff of the TARDIS doesn't hate Clara anymore.
Right.
That's what I thought that plot point was solving. No,
There's a lot of fantastical stuff that happened. All of these things that we're talking about, all these things that happen, whether it's the Weeping Angels, to what we were just talking about, it's just like taking a stone and skipping it across water. And every time it hits water, that's the only time we hear it. And,
It's on the surface and no depth.
Yeah, it's exactly it. It's like, wow, what's going to happen? And they just gloss over it and move on to the next. Oh, yeah, your 5 minutes is up. But they're just tying up bow after bow after bow after bow.
Of boxes that we didn't want tied up.
Sure, yeah.
We didn't see her, like, we saw her turn around when the TARDIS started to disappear, but we didn't see her, like, grab onto it, did we?
You put the key
She had
the key in.
No, but that's it. Like, you didn't realize that happened to her till she showed up later. Like, it didn't even happen consecutively, did it?
No, it happened 300 years later.
Yeah.
We had to go through his 300. We had to go through his
time wise.
But they had to show his 300 years in their montage.
Right. I was just saying that they have her try to get into the TARDIS, and then they cut away. All
Okay.
this stuff happens, screen
Not to
time
her.
wise. No, I know
Right.
not to her, but we're the ones watching, having the experience of watching the television show. She shows up, and then it took me a minute to realize why she upset. What's going on? And then she says, "I was in outer space." And for a moment, I was like, "You're always in outer space." And I was like, "Oh, was she outside the TARDIS?" Meanwhile, all this stuff is happening in that 1 minute that I'm trying to figure out what just happened that I miss because I have to now think about what happened 5-10 minutes ago.
Yes.
Yes.
It just, yeah,
You don't think they earned the
Right.
hint?
right.
I agree with
agree.
Josh.
I don't
I
think,
agree.
yeah, I didn't even realize. I had to then think back to, oh, did that happen to her because she did the thing? Like, have a shot of her in outer space. Have a shot of her with the TARDIS disappear. Which, if that did happen, I didn't notice it. Yeah, I missed it.
I missed it.
I
too,
think I was
Josh.
just trying to keep up.
And I was like, well, so to me, it was like, so the mystery for me was, that's going to kill her. And then you find out it didn't kill her because the TARDIS saved her. And she was like, oh my God, what happened? And then she comes back to reality. And that's when she's angry. She's angry at the Doctor because he left her. He tricked
Right.
her. And she's going to be pissed at that. But, it's Clara and the Doctor. So they laugh at their anger and hug. So.
Yeah, that part,
Yeah.
I did enjoy, like how quickly they were able to reconcile. Like to me, that
seemed
shows
very natural.
that part is one of the only things that I see naturally earned in this, and it was enjoyable too, the way they did it.
But weren't they only able to reconcile because the Doctor was about to leave her again? Like,
Maybe.
I think that's what happens right away, right? He's like, "I'll never leave you again," and then
And he leaves.
leaves her, right?
Yeah,
With the
well,
Turk, yeah.
How
yeah.
was he able to lie to her? That's what I want to know.
He was in the TARDIS.
Has someone
Never
figured
worked.
this out?
The
Oh,
TARDIS was already back on Earth when he said the lie, or the TARDIS could
Extend the field.
protect from the truth field.
Yeah.
Also, the way they portray it, the field literally doesn't go out that very far from the tower. Because when we first see them walk up to the two villagers in the very beginning, the Doctor is saying, okay, we'll lie. I'll say my name's Bob and you say your name's Mary or whatever thing. So he's lying at that point. They walk 10 feet further.
Mary and
So
Joseph.
he was telling the truth at that point. We are going to lie. That's the truth.
Oh, good. Oh, I like it. Thank you. Even
I was
better.
under the impression that the truth field was over the whole town. Like everyone
is.
in that
I
town
was
tells
wrong.
the truth.
It is, but the inhabitants of the town said this close to the tower, you can't fight it. It just happens.
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
there is a limit to it. And if you go out to the rest of the planet, it may not.
Oh, maybe
be
that's why that was the joke of them divulging so much information.
It
It's
was
like, I'm
so
telling you
strong
all
they
these
knew it all.
truths that
Yes.
that you didn't even ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the villagers are like, you'll get used to it, and you won't do that anymore.
And at this point, he's also had 300 years of practice within the truth field of lying. So he's probably gotten
Right.
good at it.
It's like how you beat a lie detector test. You think of something that's truthful.
Yeah.
Which he does with the wood Cybermen, which he tells them the truth. He sends a pulse, so that it'll reverse the Cybermen's fire, but he doesn't tell them that he knows it's not going to work, but he tells them all the truth. So,
And that was a
Yeah.
nice Third Doctor reference, reversing.
The polarity.
This is also the in the paragraph summary that we are in, where we learn why the TARDIS blew up, right?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't catch that either.
Okay, so Church as a papal mainframe is an organization where you have different offshoots and sects of a religion, just like the papal mainframe. So the Kavarian sect was a different, let's say, unit of the church, because it's a military organization as well, where Madame Kavarian was from season 6, but she was wanting to do the same thing that Tasha Lem is doing, preventing the Time Lords from coming back. But the Kavarian sect did it more aggressively, shall we say, where to prevent the Doctor from reaching Trenzalore, they blew up the TARDIS.
Okay, and that was explained when?
In a line.
There's a big exposition scene where that's explained.
No, I did start to nod off at one point.
But again, it's exposition.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's how they explained that.
they've explained the silence will fall many times.
Yeah,
And many answers sort of to it as well.
yeah.
So
It had to turn something so creepy and cool into something so quilted and soft.
Just think of it this way. That's not the ultimate end of Silence Will Fall. It's just another Bad Wolf reference in the universe to Silence Will Fall.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like the first time they changed the meaning of Silence Will Fall. We talked about that on the podcast.
We don't. I didn't like that either.
That it kind of retconned, if that's right. You know.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Same thing, sort of with the Angels, but not as much.
Oh, the Angels is a different story. Just
it just kind of hit me though. It's badly written, but it is kind of a continuation of how they retconned it, because the retcon was Silence Will Fall means that the Doctor will stop. And so for Tasha to say, our Covarian sect went off and did that and we didn't like it, but that's what they did. They tried to do Silence Will Fall on you. Now in this moment, Tasha's having the entire church convert over to the Covarian fake thing. So it's kind of a continuation of that stupid retcon. It's just, my God, it took me 12 years to come to that conclusion of watching this episode. It's badly written.
Yeah. No, I don't need to go into it anymore. She wasn't even referring to the silence at that point. It was just a coincidence that there was silence there, and she was saying Silence Will Fall because he's not going to say his name.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird. I almost wonder what it would have been like if she said Silence Will Fall and there were no alien silence people there. I wonder if that would have been better, because you associate that alien with the original meaning or the original proposition of what it was supposed to mean.
I just think, all right, he's got a fishbowl full of things he has to put in the episode, and he just picks one, puts it here, picks one, puts it here. Knowing that, I get it, but it's just it's doing a disservice to this Doctor's last episode.
Yes.
And that's more what I mean.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
I do think Matt Smith should have had a full white beard by the end of this, because he's playing Father Christmas. He's making the toys and the whole little North Pole town of Christmas.
But then Moffat being Moffat, he wanted to pay homage to the first Doctor, so that's why there's no beard.
Okay.
Because of the white hair and the cane, the first Doctor eventually had a cane.
So they wouldn't let him have a beard, so he wouldn't be seen as Santa Claus. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the more of the reference is the first Doctor. Yeah,
I see.
That's the goal in Moffat's brain.
Okay.
By the way, I don't know if anybody noticed, but there was one reference that they'd actually changed the name of the church. It wasn't the papal mainframe name anymore. It was the Church of the Silence, because there's one point where Tasha's doing that emperor overlord thing looking down on him, and she says the Church of the Silence, blah, 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 won't tolerate, blah, 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 blah. And I think that was meant to be more important, and they forgot about it, because then later on, they say the papal mainframe again.
Where's the papal mainframe, the ship that they're on? And the church is like the collective body of all believers around the universe.
Oh man, so many things. So many things.
when last thing on this, well, maybe not, but when the Doctor and Tosh, when he brings her back, like kisses her and makes out with her, the stalk is gone. Did that go back in when they kissed? Did he like headbutt it back in, or did it just fall off?
I think just as she gets her consciousness back, it goes away.
Okay.
I took it.
But she still has the
open wound stays there for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Well, it's
hundreds and hundreds of years.
Because he goes in for the kiss, it's out, and like to actually make the physics of the kiss work, it's got to be gone. So I think he headbutts it back in.
Yes.
It was a scene left on the cutting room floor.
No, it was all there in front of us. They just didn't have the sound effect for the whoop or whatever.
Maybe they should do a slide whistle.
Oh yeah. That was the stalk he's carrying in the beginning when he first
snaps it
Anybody
off.
know where this goes?
So that wraps up. Just kidding. So the turkey's done. Clara takes it outside the TARDIS and sees that she's back home again. She watches as the TARDIS returns to Trenzalore. She tries to go on with her family Christmas dinner when she hears a TARDIS returning. It's Tasha, and she returns Clara to Trenzalore. All-out war has broken out, and the Doctor's enemies have been trying to defeat him for centuries. In the end, only the papal mainframe and the Daleks remain. Tasha tells Clara to go to him. He should not die alone. She finds him in the tower. He is now a very, very old man. The Daleks have reached the tower and demand to see the Doctor. He goes to the balcony and Clara implores the Time Lords through the crack to do something. His name is the Doctor, and that is all they should need to know about him. After a moment, the crack seals itself.
I like this.
You don't.
No reason to be sorry.
You don't have to apologize.
I've been feeling very much on the opposite end of what I normally am.
The polarity has been reversed.
Yeah. But I'll get to that later. I just thought it was fun to see the all-out war. I basically given up on the plot at this point, so I wasn't looking for anything deeper than that. There's just certain things that it's like, I remember going, well, how does Tasha get to use the TARDIS? But it's like, oh yeah, she had a key from earlier on. The Doctor gave her a key, so yeah, she can use it. I love the sweet little moment when Clara and the old Doctor are in the tower, and he's too weak to even pull the cracker. I think the poem is fantastic. The clock's, 11's time is done, the clock strikes 12. I think that poem is fantastic, and I love that the Doctor's reaction is, I don't get it. I just think that's very quiet and very sweet, and I know that hell is breaking loose on the outside, but every movie and TV show, when they need a quiet moment, write quiet moments. I just liked it. It maybe my expectations were very low and the bar was set too low, but I just thought this was a fun part. And the doctor walking with the silence, not that we saw much of it, but the Doctor walking with the silence, that was kind of fun.
That was shot very nicely.
Yeah. Tasha using the TARDIS, once I figured out how she could get into it, I thought was awesome and very Moffat-esque, where it's like, oh, flying the TARDIS is easy. I can never get the dock. I can never figure out the dock. But that was really nice. And the only reason why she goes back to get Clara is because it's over. Everybody's going to die. So she goes to get Clara literally just so that the Doctor doesn't have to die alone. And then her character just walks off into the snow because she's failed. She knows everything that she's done is over. And so she just walks away. I guess it's just because I like the actor so much. I liked it.
What I was waiting to say from earlier is Matt Smith is fantastic in this episode. Playing the different ages, his comedy. I cried a few times during this episode. There's a lot of good emotional stuff here. I just kept getting distracted by questions about what was happening. Outside of that, like I still am not 100% sure why the villagers were being attacked, and so every 50 to 100 years there's an all-out war in this town. But yeah, so now this nice little town is now a war zone that people are trying to live in for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Where are they going to go?
I don't know. It was just kind of weird and unclear, and then I'm crying because of Matt Smith and Clara. And it was like, I audibly was crying at one point, and he's so brilliant in it, and I don't know how I feel.
Yeah, I just wish that the whole episode was more, like, gave me the same feeling that this scene did. I wish I felt that way about the whole episode. But there's just something about the episode as a whole that every time I watch it, but it just annoys me, and I don't really know why.
Yeah, and also don't forget, 5 minutes before that fantastic scene is Clara eating Christmas dinner with her revised family who are now apples. So it's like, I hate that scene. I mean, the grandmother's cute, but the dad being the way the dad is with a stepmom, and it's like, wait a minute, you made such a big deal about how Clara's family made her, and the leaf, and all that kind of stuff, and now you've got her father married to the evil stepmother with no explanation. So I think in kind of a way, Josh, we're both reacting to this episode very much the same, just with different elements of it. Because that infuriates the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's just, I think that this, I think it was you who said it, that this episode will benefit on repeated viewing because you know what's going to happen. So all the little sprinkles through it will be more interesting, and you can listen to it, not questioning it so much. But am I right to understand that they're attacking so he will say his name, and he won't say his name? And if he said,
they're attacking because they're afraid the Doctor will say his name.
So they don't want him to say it because they don't want the Time War.
They don't want the Time Lord.
But he doesn't want to say it.
But that doesn't mean that. But they're attacking to get, literally this whole thing would be solved if the Doctor killed himself. That'd be the end of the problem. They're attacking because they don't want the Doctor to say his name, so they can't have the Doctor around to ever say his name. Yeah, the doctor's not going to say his name, but one, Daleks aren't going to know that. Daleks are just going to assume he has the information. Eventually, he will say the information because they're Daleks. So they have to get rid of him. While at the same time...
The Daleks only learn that when they take the papal mainframe out. Like they learn that from Tasha. Don't think about it too hard.
Okay.
There's war. There's fighting. They have to fight. They're there.
I kind of feel like that's why some of the other stuff that starts to, make me emotional didn't, because I didn't feel the stakes of what was even happening. Why was he doing this? Why was he there for so long? Why is this like, oh, the doctor is so great. He actually stayed there for hundreds of years, and we actually get to see a Time Lord age because he stood his ground. And I don't know, what makes me love the doctor in moments is how he's going to do what no one else will do. And I could sense he was doing something.
Okay.
I'm not really wrapping my head around emotionally, like wrapping my heart around why I know you're great for some reason. I just can't quite figure it out.
So he's staying there to protect the town because no one else will. Once he leaves, they will destroy it because they want to stop the Time Lords from coming through. And they see it as this is the place that's going to happen.
That's the part I didn't get, that if he left, they'd be destroyed. That's the part I was missing.
He just wants to save this town. And it's like, it's kind of a sweet little thing.
It is a very sweet little thing. But I also feel it's a simple enough problem that this genius of a person who's gotten out of much more complicated situations could have figured out a way to get everybody in the TARDIS or this or the other. Like, you could fit a few hundred people in the TARDIS.
And then you left the crack, but you can't leave because the crack is there.
But it's the doctor. It's the doctor. I don't know if he will never say the name.
No, I'm just saying
he might at some point. That's why he's keeping his options open. He might say the name, bring the Time Lords back. He's the one who got them trapped, so he has that whole guilt.
I get what you're saying, and I get how the story works once you think about it that much. But it just, for me, it didn't play out that way, and it took away. In the moment of watching the show, it prevented me from like fully being as fully emotional as I kept starting to get, because I kept trying to figure out all the stuff that you're saying. And I stopped thinking about it when I started to cry,
right?
because of the emotion.
So this is how they explain it in the show. Well, it's a standoff. They can't attack in case I unleash the Time Lords, and I can't run away because they'll burn this planet to stop the Time Lords. So
yeah,
they'll do anything they can to stop the Time Lords from coming back, and he's protecting those people because they're going to get caught in the process.
It's a throwaway line, and I agree with what Eugene was saying before. Like, see it, don't say it. It just, you blink and you miss it.
I disagree with that one. I don't think that's a throwaway line. I think that's a very important line.
It happens too late in the episode. It's like I don't feel that the story was structured well to understand what was happening while it was happening. That's it. I don't need to. Yeah. I'm done with my dissertation on why this episode doesn't work, because at the same time I enjoyed it a lot.
I think part of the problem as well is like when we saw the crack in the story, it was everywhere. Like it could be anywhere. And now this is making it like, oh, it's stuck here in a town called Christmas, when like it's not, because then at the end the Time Lords are able to move it. So why don't they go somewhere else where there isn't a bunch of people?
So it wasn't the same. Yeah, whatever.
But it's those little things that really make it hard to enjoy a whole piece.
I feel like this is just put together with Scotch tape and gum.
Well, again, I mean,
a really flavorful gum.
Yeah. And if we were watching it Christmas Day, maybe we already had some eggnog, maybe we already had some rum. By the time you get to the end of this episode, you remember the emotions and all the other stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Next time I watch this, I'll make sure that I'm 3 to 5 eggnogs in.
Go back of you. I will say, on a technical aspect, I mean, the effects were really good, but considering this was 2013, I think the age makeup was pretty good.
Well, I do agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's much better today. It still had that foam latex that doesn't move feel to it, but just photographically, it looked really good. I do think the middle age, he should have more gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But,
I didn't think the middle age worked as well as the old.
But the old one, like, if I didn't know better, if I didn't know anything about Doctor Who, and I'm flipping through channels, and I landed on one of those scenes, I would have thought it was an old guy.
Yeah, my only thing, and I brought it up with David Tennant in Human Nature, is that they should have given Matt Smith some sort of like foggy contact lenses, because I think that would have helped me like look past the prosthetic.
Right.
Yeah, the eyes are too young.
Yeah.
But see,
More
the
so
planet doesn't get any sunlight except for a couple minutes, so there's nothing kind of burning his eyes out.
Very low on vitamin D. Or is
Very
it
low on vitamin D.
I'm just saying that if you want to go all the way in, like make me believe every aspect of that aging.
Yeah.
For old makeup, I agree totally with Eugene. Going when you do something like that, the eyes usually don't match.
Yes.
And that's what gives it away, making any kind of makeup look more fake because it's not the person. So a lot of times you do have to work on the eyes because that's going to be the finishing touch on it that needs to sell it.
Because there's this moment where Matt Smith is sitting down, and I think Clara comes into the basement or wherever he's whittling on or working on that toy, where he does this thing with his jaw where it looks like an old man. But then I go up to the eyes and like, those are a young man's eyes.
Right.
Also, let's give a shout out to Barnable.
Barnaby or Barnable?
Barnable.
I love
kid?
Barnable. Yeah, the kid.
But towards the end, when the older gentleman is there and it's not Barnable, it's like this moment where it was set up so perfectly that they could have been like, no, Barnable was like my great 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 grandfather. Just something that ties it back to Barnable instead of it being a completely different person. Like
Right.
I didn't want it to be Barnable too, but it could have been just somebody related to him.
It would have been nice to have scenes of Barnable aging, fighting alongside the Doctor or being along it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I would have liked to have seen Barnable older in a scene or so before that.
He could have said like, I'm Barnable 7 or I'm Barnable, whatever.
Right.
And it's time for Carousel, Doctor. The Daleks tell the Doctor that he is dying. He replies that they've been trying to kill him for centuries, and here he is dying of old age. They are still frightened to shoot him, but he says that he has nothing left. The crack opens in the sky, and energy emerges and goes to the Doctor. It's allowing him to regenerate. As the energy explodes from him, he sends his love to the Daleks and destroys them. Clara can't find the Doctor, and so she goes to the TARDIS. She replaces the phone that was dangling on its cord and goes inside.
Take notice of that phone. It'll come back later, not this episode.
I love Matt Smith in this scene. And the more I watch it, the more I love it. But the thing where he's at the end, he's like, well, go ahead and do it. I've got nothing left. And then you realize he's in the truth field and he's speaking the truth. It really is he can't lie to them. And so it's like we are now seeing the Doctor where he has nothing left. And it's just, the way he delivers the line for me is really emotional. And then the instant he gets the energy and what he just does with his face, even under all that makeup, you can just see that he's been revitalized. And then for me, the love from Gallifrey Boys is just the greatest line ever.
Not my favorite. I'm on the other side. It just seemed redundant of a lot of Matt Smith's
speeches.
Yeah. And so it just, to me, it didn't work.
Has regeneration energy been used as a weapon before in other parts?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's not used specifically as a weapon, but as a destructive force. Because when Tennant regenerates, he, number one, heals all his wounds. Those scars or cuts on his face from falling through the glass. But then when he regenerates into Matt Smith, he's the one that sets the TARDIS on fire. So regeneration energy has a destructive force.
Yeah, it blows up the console.
But this seemed deliberate on the Doctor's part to use the regeneration energy to destroy.
Yeah. He says he's got the energy from the Time Lords, and this regeneration then is going to be a whopper. So I think that's how they kind of explain all that energy.
Yeah, because in classic Who, the regeneration has been very small, shall we say. It's because it's a camera trick. They don't have the CG to add all this time energy that comes from it. And with the 9th Doctor going into the 10th Doctor is the first time that it's all a light show. And so every time that the Doctor has regenerated since in the modern series, it's gotten bigger and bigger. So when he uses it for sort of a weapon, I kind of like it because of what'll happen later.
I like it, but don't ever do it again.
I really had no recollection of the reasoning of like, now why is there able to be a 13th and a 14th Doctor? Like, and the Time Lords gave him energy. Did like I could never really remember. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, so they gave him this energy and they're not sure what it does, and now it can keep going. Okay, I get it, and I'm fine with that. But I feel like visually the spectacle wasn't enough for it to stick somehow. I don't know.
I wonder if it was a color blindness thing, because
Well,
it's very bombastic. It's very over
not
the
when
top.
I'm not talking about when he fires stuff. I'm talking about when he gets the energy.
Oh,
When
yes.
he gets the energy, it's quite subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But we can see it. I mean, it is
Yeah, we can
clearly
see
going
it.
into his mouth.
Yeah, I get that. But the fact it's going to basically change the lore of the Doctor Who regeneration, it seemed very subtle when he received it.
Okay, I see it. I see your point.
Yeah.
I like that the Daleks in this, like as they're going in, there's a Dalek voice saying the rules of regeneration are known. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
really,
Yeah.
you guys just learned that. Don't be so proud of yourselves.
Well, I think it was in the Deadly Assassin, the one we did with Tom Baker by himself, no companion, that it was discussed that the Doctor has 12 regenerations, so 13 lives,
Yes.
and
think so.
then
And I love how they explain that in this.
so it's I guess presumed that the High Council of Gallifrey is able to give him more regenerations. And we did the Time War audio episode where there is the rogue Time Lord. I think it's the Valeyard, or I can't
Mhm.
remember which
Or
one.
is it 12?
Or is it the 12? That's what I was going to say.
The
But
veil, the
no, I think it is the 12 because the 12 is at
12.
the end of the regeneration cycle. So the 12 as a rogue Time Lord is always trying to get the Doctor's other regenerations to keep himself or herself alive. So it is known that Time Lords can give a regeneration up.
okay.
I also like his Clara figures it out going, but you're 11. This isn't your last regeneration. And it's like, you forgot Captain Grumpy.
Right.
And
Right.
one of my previous selves regenerated. It didn't change.
Yeah.
I was very arrogant back then, or what? I can't remember the exact line, but it was just, I was in a very egotistical state at that point.
Who's that?
Egocentric,
Who's that?
maybe.
That was Tennant.
Tennant.
Okay.
And
He
then-
regenerates and he shoves all the energy into his severed hand
And grows
rather
another
than
Doctor.
change his body.
Grows another human Doctor.
Clara sees the Doctor and he is young again. This regeneration cycle is new and a bit different, but he's a-comin'. He sees the child Amelia, the first face this face saw, and then Amy comes down the stairs and says, "Raggedy Man, good night." Clara pleads one more time, but in a flash, the Doctor is a gray-haired Scotsman who doesn't like the color of his kidneys. He asks her one thing. Motioning to the console, he says, "Do you know how to fly this thing?" So
That's the part when I really cried the most, is when Amy showed up.
Oh,
I gotta say, best regeneration sequence ever.
and that's why I was mentioning before, when the regeneration energy is given to the Doctor, the 11th Doctor, he's using it as a weapon, the destructive force of it. So when he changes into 12, Peter Capaldi, it's in an instant because all that excess energy is already used up.
Yeah, and I hated that at first. It was like, why is he suddenly young again? This is stupid. But now that I'm used to it and I've seen it so many times, the writing and the acting and the sentiment. And it also did bug me that it was kind of an anti-Tennant regeneration. They were definitely trying to say, Moffat was definitely trying to say, I don't agree with Davis's interpretation of regenerations. So that kind of annoyed me too. But now I just love every second of this.
And when he drops his tie,
Yeah.
he's basically she's saying goodbye in a very peaceful way.
You know, and he's talking about how we all change, and that's good. Change is good, but always remember who you were. I will always be the Doctor. I'll never forget one moment of when the Doctor was me. And then he drops, and then he pulls on the tie, and then Amy and Amelia runs, and Amy comes down the stairs, and it's just so good.
In that table read with everybody, and Matt Smith and Jenna were sitting next to each other, Matt Smith started to just cry when he was reading that. And you could see Jenna, Matt Smith is here, Jenna's on his right, So Jenna is looking like this away from Matt every time, and you see her hair getting lower and lower to shield her from Matt because she can't look at him crying.
You know, we're all like breath on a mirror.
I even thought that what was the little boy's name?
Barnable.
Barnable looked like young Amy. Like he had red hair, big eyes. Like I felt like he was cast to
Emote.
what's the word?
Be evocative.
Yeah, no, to evoke
Yes.
Amy and Amelia.
Yeah.
I'm calling that.
Yeah. And now we tie back to the other bald head because Karen Gillian was bald and wearing a wig because she was filming Nebula.
Gotcha.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. I also like the callbacks of the fish, what was it, the custard and
The fish chicken custard, yeah.
yeah, like he's big. So.
His last meal.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. His first meal is his last meal.
And as much as it was like, okay, get on, how did he get to be young again and have his final speech, which now I like. I also did not like the first time I saw it, the quick flash into Peter Capaldi, but now I love it. I love that and I like Eugene's explanation for it.
Because it still has that big energy that we have known, but it's just used differently.
Yeah.
As cockamamie as this episode is, this was a very poetic exit for him.
It does seem out of a different episode. It's like, oh, this is where you spent your time writing the script. And then just also the satisfaction that I really wasn't liking Clara, and I know she gets a lot worse, but it is like, the big emotional moment is, not you, it's Amy! Oh, and that's a great line. I'm seeing the first face this face saw.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. It's remnants of Tenants, but haven't you been there before? Yeah, but I haven't seen him with these eyes. In his follow-up.
Watching it this week, I thought of all the other companions that have seen the Doctor for the first time. Like, why don't they get their moment in the sun, if you will? It's just I don't know.
Don't overthink it.
That's what I do.
Everybody's regeneration is different.
Like when the fifth Doctor regenerated into the sixth Doctor, Carrie was in the console, and she's like, I. Oh, you're very narcissistic because you said "I" 3 times in one sentence. And then, like, when he regenerates into Sylvester McCoy, she's not the companion. Would she come back? And anyway, I'm overthinking it.
Albert had a fun explanation for why he's seen Amy.
Oh, go ahead.
Said,
I forget.
Well, it's just. Well, I mean, it's funny because like I had that same thought of like, oh, this is different. Does this happen every time? Like, we just don't see it. And Almer was like, no, he's tripping balls on the thing that the Time Lord said through the crack.
Yeah.
Yes, because she is not there. I do like I like the fact that they make it clear that Clara can't see him. They're not there. He's just
So it's all in his head. He's dying.
Just to go back to, this is just for us fans. Bringing Karen back just to say goodbye was nice. I mean, to me, it took me out of the show a bit and put me in the show because it's like, oh, but yeah, that's the real reason we're doing it. Go with it.
I like it.
But also, the 11th generation has lived the longest, from what I can tell, of all of the versions of the Doctor.
So far.
Yeah. But
I'll argue
from
that.
each version, because we had the whole 300-year gap, with Astronaut, and then we had another one here. They had an extra, so it's just like he's lived a long time.
So how old is he now?
We don't know.
We don't,
Okay.
Because I think that's what Moffat's doing was Moffat really wanted to like stop the discussion of the Doctor's age, so he just made him too old, and he does it even worse in Capaldi's.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'll argue that when we get to that episode.
This Doctor, or the Doctor saying goodbye to Amy, also reminded me of him saying goodbye to River Song, because it was only he could see her, no one else could see her, and Clara can't see Amy, and he's saying goodbye to. So this,
I never thought of that. River doesn't show up here. Amy does. And that's so perfect. I'm glad. I'm really, really glad, because I didn't miss her. I didn't even think of River showing up until you mentioned her name now.
Right, because she had such a good exit.
Yeah.
She had such a good close of closing that chapter.
And to bring Amy back for a split second, that's who we want.
Well, maybe because
that moment.
Well, that goodbye wasn't so good with Angels Take Manhattan, so maybe. So maybe Moffat was listening to people's reactions online. He's like, I need to fix this.
It'd be funny if Right after that moment, Rory just falls down the stairs.
So we mentioned an Orla Brady, who plays Tasha Lem. Most recently, she is Laris from Picard. She was Lydia from
And Talon.
Yeah.
in season 2, correct?
Yeah.
And then Lydia from Into the Badlands, and she was alternate Elizabeth Bishop from Fringe, if anybody remembers that.
I'm sure I'd remember. I remember Fringe, but like this, when you don't know a famous person, if you see them for the first time before they're famous, you're never going to recall.
I will argue with that because when we were watching Picard, Brian texted me, "Did you see who Laris is?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's her." She is also Irish.
And God bless season 1 of Picard for letting her actually speak in her Irish accent, because it's awesome. And she does a British accent better than she does an American accent. Because
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, and you know, damn the second season of Picard for making her do an American accent for no reason.
For no reason. Totally could have done her Irish accent. Totally.
Anyway.
But it also sets up that there's an Irish part of Romulus, and that's just awesome.
James Bueller, or Bowler, plays Dad. That's what he's credited as, Dad. Elizabeth Ryder plays Linda. That is not Clara's mom. She is Mistress Ellen from the Sarah Jane Adventures in the story Lost in Time. And she was also in another Doctor Who thing. She was the voice of the Atmos device in the Sontaran Stratagem.
You have reached your destination.
Sheila Reid plays Gran. We'll see her again in Doctor Who in a future episode, but she was also in Classic Who as Edda in The Vengeance of Varos with Perry and the Sixth Doctor.
Oh yeah, much younger.
Rob Jarvis plays Bramall. I'm guessing that's one of the citizens of Christmas Town. Tessa Peake Jones plays Marta. That's probably the woman in the couple as they're learning about the truth field. Gonna get my words out. Jack Hollington plays Barnable. Mark Anthony Brigton plays Colonel Barrow. Sonita Henry plays the other Colonel Meme. She's the one that has at one point when they think they change, she's in the center of like a 3-shot. She has the uniform.
With the eye stalk?
Yes. She is Rika in Krypton. She is the Kelvin Doctor in the JJ Star Trek movie in the very beginning.
She's got big eyes.
Very big eyes.
Oh.
And her first credited thing is the president's aide in The Fifth Element. She's the one that leans over to the president, played by Tiny Lister, and whispers intel into his ear.
In the beginning?
Or at the end.
Yeah, okay.
Aidan Cook is in the Cyberman suit. Nicholas Briggs voices the Daleks. Barnaby Edwards and Nicholas Pegg are practical Daleks. Dan Starkey, as we mentioned earlier, plays both Sontarans. Ross Mullen plays the Silent, or they call him the Silent in this one.
Do they really?
Yeah. Karen Gillan plays Amy Pond, like we've mentioned. And then we have Kaivan Novak, who voices Handles. He is Fabian Kingswood from Archer. He was Roger in the new Cruella movie. He was Grant in the Paddington movie. And he is Nandor in What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show.
Oh, cool.
And then we get Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. So, the time of the Doctor. Who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
I'm going to say diehard, just because it's wrapping up so much. I mean, maybe a casual fan, because it is a regeneration episode. So if you're casual, you kind of know what's going on. But definitely, there's so much wrapping up and so many references to previous episodes. Maybe a casual. I might change to casual. Rewatching it and knowing it's annoying stuff and knowing how things turn out later, I can kind of ignore the annoying stuff, and I really, 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 really like the good stuff. And it was just kind of weird. Again, like I said earlier, it was weird to be the one liking an episode when everyone else was disliking it. It was like, wow, this is unique. I don't know how to deal with it. But even watching this at work yesterday on my phone in bits and pieces, It was like, oh my God, that was a great moment. Oh my God, that was a great moment. You know, I generally think of this episode as one that I do not like overall. And now it's like, no, actually, I think I do like it overall. But oh dear God, it's got some terrible writing.
I feel like I can't even rate this because it annoys me so much. Like, I want to put this in a 5th category of like, this isn't even good for a diehard. It's good for one person only, and that's Moffat's mom. She's the only one that can watch
That's the
this.
5th category from now on. Is it a diehard or Moffat's mom?
So I guess I'll just default to Die Hard, but I don't even feel like I'm being fair to that. I wanted a different episode for his last one, I guess. And maybe that's also my frustration with this episode. But Die Hard. If I have to do it, it's Die Hard. I just remember something real quick. In the regeneration scene, this last scene, the music cue that they play for his goodbye is like, it's from the what was it, the Rings of Akatan, that song that kid sings. Like, is it that piece though?
No, what Murray Gold did is he hinted at a lot of stuff like what we were talking about, like this is the greatest hits, the Rogues Gallery. So he does use that melody, and then he also does the one from Blink when the angels show up, and there are some others, but I guess I didn't research it enough.
I didn't catch that with the Rings of Akatan, but you can say it's like, well, a god is going.
Yeah, it was just interesting. It was just an interesting choice. Like, you know, I don't know. I liked it though. Like, I liked it, but it was just also like interesting. But I guess you're saying there was a lot of, it was like a melody of or a compilation of a lot of themes.
It was something Murray Gold did for this ending of this era with Matt Smith.
This episode had some great moments that we talked about, had some great one-liners. Overall, I put it in fan because you want to know enough about Matt Smith and the enemies he's faced, and pay off the end. You really need to know his relationship, or the Doctor's relationship with Amy, you know, to get that moment for it. Otherwise, if you're casual or you're just a newbie, you're not going to get that. You just go, okay, this is somebody that was important to him. And that's about it. So, but I think as Die Hard, we nitpick too much, you know? So there's a lot of things that when you watch it more over and over, there's that one point going, well, why that? Well, why did they do that? What does that mean? Why is he bringing this back up? So I think being the fan, you usually watch it more in the sequence of it. And I think that would be where you want to watch it. You may want to rewatch it as a fan, but not something that you're going to keep going back to as a Die Hard.
I think Die Hard. I think the best way to enjoy this episode is when it's fan service, and a Die Hard's kind of one of the only is the best type of person to, you know, it's just to notice everything, and will enjoy the fan service over story. So I enjoyed the episode, but it wasn't. I was overly annoyed by what I didn't like about it. Once we were talking and we said it's basically a greatest hits of Rogues Gallery, whatever, like, oh, all right, yeah, if I was a diehard, I'd be like ringing a bell for every time I saw something, and it would be fun.
I definitely have trouble getting through this. Like, I've tried a couple times and, you know, fallen asleep or just lost interest. But I think for myself, I would put it into a fan category because it does have a lot of good moments, and, you know, certainly wraps up Matt Smith's time with the Doctor. I think one thing though about this episode is whenever I think about Matt Smith, I never think about this as his ending.
Yeah.
I think about this as like another story. And that's just my own personal like relationship with Doctor Who. Maybe it's because like soon after watching this live, like Capaldi and Clara lost my interest for a bit.
Right.
So maybe like it's not as cemented in my memory as it could be. But I think the 50th really hurt this episode and being like the end of the arc, because I feel like we already got it, and so this is like, what
if we'd had like another half season or season with him, which would have included Clara, Frank, which is what you like,
right?
It might have been better overall, because you are right, it was very jarring going from the 50th to this.
I mean, even going from Name of the Doctor to the 50th is jarring.
Yes,
because you're like, she's a school teacher now.
Yeah,
And then we just keep doing time jumps. It's just weird.
it's too
Anyway.
whiny.
Yeah. For me, this is going to be for a fan because as a fan, you're going to enjoy it. As a diehard, you're going to pick it apart as I did. So you can't enjoy it as much as you would if you are just a fan.
We agree. Wow.
I've only watched this episode once prior to this week.
You're kidding.
Yeah, because I didn't like it at all.
Wow.
And then I got the Blu-ray and I was like, it's still shrink wrapped.
Wow.
So as a diehard, I have to have them all. But as a fan, I have not revisited this episode until, what is this? 8 years? No, whatever. Several years later.
9 years.
9.
Oh, 9, yeah.
Josh is right.
Yeah. The Day of the Doctor, like we said, I think should have been the capper of everything of Matt Smith, because where else can you go from there?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Name of the Doctor, where Clara jumps through the time stream, should have been her end.
Agreed.
And so if you want to enjoy the time of the Doctor, do not be on a podcast. Enjoy it as a fan.
By the way, it should also have been called The Winter of the Doctor. Because that's a line used in the episode. Because I think, the winter, because then it would be easier to figure out which of the Doctor episode is which.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I'd like to close with something that Stephen Moffat said when they said goodbye to Matt Smith when they wrapped him. He said that if I have one complaint about time travel is that this day should not exist. So they had a tough time saying goodbye to Matt Smith, and I understand that wholeheartedly. That wraps up the time of the Doctor. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
Additional music is by Damiel Paggio.
All our episodes are engineered by Allburn.
You can find him at albert.binkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page. Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew podcast.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest-running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
Delia Derbyshire,
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
your work continues to inspire and entertain.